he's not allowed to do that. That's his choice. But now he's being hauled up in front of the judge to quite possibly face sanction for that behavior, for telling his story of how he's been gagged and how his parental rights have been destroyed, and what's they've done to his kid against his will. And so now it's very serious, because the Attorney General of British Columbia has inserted themselves into the middle of this case. They weren't part of this case. This is quite unprecedented, that the Attorney General would step in and say that they want a much heavier sanction against this person, against this father. The Attorney General of British Columbia has inserted themselves within this case to push for criminal contempt against the father. And this is a far more weighty charge than just civil contempt. Civil contempt, you would perhaps get fined, that kind of a sanction, right? Now, criminal contempt means that he could face jail time. That's what makes this so serious. So they are saying that what he's doing is against the public interest, whereas many would consider what he's doing is in fact beneficial to the public interest, because people, and particularly parents, need to know what the schools are doing against their knowledge, against their will. But the Attorney General now has decided to step in, and so now we're actually quite concerned for the father. He could be facing a criminal contempt charge. Right from the beginning, Justice Bowden, he put that gag order on the father so that we could not speak his name. We cannot speak about any of the doctors that are involved. We are absolutely silenced, because I think that perhaps they were concerned that if people actually knew what was going on, it was not going to be tolerated. So for all of these months now, about almost a year, he has been gagged and he's not allowed to speak, which means that none of us can tell people what's happening.
I think they have to hide that this is really a dark part of our history in Canada, that they are sterilizing and mutilating teenagers. And they are doing it, and it is becoming a public outrage, so of course everybody is upset about it. Well, the doctors are getting threats, and and I do not condone that. It is not helpful to our case. Anybody sending threats to the doctors, it's not helpful. But it does show the outrage that people feel, that they feel something grossly inappropriate is going on in Canada, and we cannot be silent. They don't want it getting out because this is a global agenda. First of all, you got to follow the money. Jen Smith today in his presentation was showing the links to pharmaceuticals, showing the links to all of the, the inappropriate ties between doctors, the pharmacy, the lawyers, the judges, all of them LGBTQ activists. And the LGBTQ community is actually very divided on this. I have got some wonderful letters lately from LGBTQ saying thanks for standing up for kids, because we don't think they should be transitioned.
Who do you think needs to ultimately be held accountable here? Because, I mean, as I understand it with this particular case, a lot of this came from the schools. It went from the teachers to the counselors, from the counselors to the doctors, from the doctors to pushing the idea directly onto the child. Is it the doctor ultimately who should be held responsible, or who do you think should be held?
Well, this is what I tried to illustrate in the court today, because initially, the last time I was in court, the judge said that, well, you can talk about the doctors, you just can't connect it to this case. But this is our star case. Like, this is the most important case of its kind in the world, in my opinion, right? And it's like a centerpiece of my argument, and it allows you to connect the dots, because you see how the child basically was influenced by SOGI materials in the school, and then how this doctor who came in and recommended the medical transitioning was involved in setting up the policies and also writing materials for the schools. So it's very important to connect all these dots and show that what we have going on is, like, if you're looking for one party to blame, you're looking in the wrong direction. This is like what I call a perfect storm of conflicts of interest.
Yeah.
It has got to be malpractice, in my humble opinion, that a doctor would, after 1 2-hour examination of a patient, would offer them a lifelong gender-altering course for the rest of their lives. I do believe it's malpractice. I believe the suits are coming. And in fact, you know, the very first young woman is now suing Tavistock, a gender clinic in the UK, and with well and good regard, because this is going to continue to happen. There's going to be more and more of these cases, and I hope that they have got good insurance for malpractice, because it's coming.
So what sort of things would you like to see come of this? You know, I mean, it's tough to say where this is going to go in the future, but what sort of things would you like to see come of this?
Well, I will tell you that this case has legs of its own. This is something that has a mystical, spiritual, unbelievable trajectory that I'm not in charge of. However, what I'd like to see is that they stop trying to hide information that all parents need to know. For one thing, if you have a child who's struggling with gender dysphoria, take them to a doctor who's not an activist. Take them to a psychologist that is not an activist, who has only one agenda: to use your child as a pawn to show that there's more and more and more transgendering going on, and to, in fact, you know, validate this evil and dark practice.
What I really wanted to show was that, again, the systemic nature of this, and the fact that the policymakers, the people who are making the policies on how to treat these kids, the educational materials that they're providing in schools to sort of, in my opinion, brainwash the kids, the doctors who are benefiting from this financially. I can't even say the doctor's name yet, but and the connections between some of the bigger organizations, like the fact I pointed out that AbbVie, the largest manufacturer of synthetic hormones and puberty blockers in the world, has a partnership with UBC, which is where a lot of the Soji materials come out, right? So I want to show that this is a systemic thing, and that there are a lot of vested interests who are benefiting from this, and we need to connect all of these dots, and that was my argument to the judge. I think what I would like to see is basically what I'm asking for right now is I'm asking for provincial and national inquiries, okay? Because I don't think that the answer is actually here in the courts, okay? All I'm asking for the courts is that I, as a political activist, be allowed to continue to speak and to point out the problems with medically transitioning kids, specifically vulnerable kids. So I want to be able to continue to speak about this issue and raise awareness, and hopefully by raising that awareness, we will get enough pressure to force these inquiries where we can actually start opening some of the books of these doctors and find out what's really going on. And hopefully, my ideal would be to stop all medical transitioning of youths under the age of 18.
We have myself and the father and another friend of ours, Jen Smith, who's had a lot of experience in this debate. We have pooled our resources, and we've come together and we've said, there's a great need in this country. There's a great need for education. People also need a lobbying body for them to stand for parental rights, that we need to stand for also for kids who don't have parents, right? Because there's a large number of children in the foster care system which are being exposed to ideology, and they have no one to protect them at all. So we see that there's a need for education. There's a need for advocacy. There's also a need for people who want to detransition and don't have any information, don't know where to go. So we've come together, and in order to fulfill that need, we've started a foundation, and it's called the Canis Foundation. And after, it will be launching in the very near future, but it's basically going to be more of a research area for people to come and get information. Parental rights is very important for me. That's going to be something that I'm going to be pushing forward and speaking to legislators about. And Jen Smith, as an ex-foster child himself, has a real passion to protect foster children. So, he's looking for a national inquiry as to why there have been so many foster kids being transitioned. And these are all really important questions as a nation going forward, right? So, these are the kinds of questions that we want to pursue. And I think that there's a need. there's a need for that, and we want to fill that need.
Every parent in Canada, you need to go to your school, to your principal, you need to ask about the SOGI resources. When it's SOGI Day or they say that they're, doing some teaching, pull your kids out of school. In fact, if I were a parent with young children, which mine are grown, thank God, I would not have my children in a public school. It is an absolutely dangerous place for kids to be. And what you need to do is you need to know what your kids are learning and have those talks at the dinner table. At the dinner table, you want to be able to ask your kids, what did you learn today? And when they say, oh, nothing, don't listen to that. Say, so what do you think about boys and girls? Are boys and girls completely different and separate? I bet you'll find your kid will go, no, you can be a boy or girl in your head. And you'll, as a parent, you'll go, what? And right under your nose, you'll realize that lies, deception, and an abomination of a curriculum has been put in front of the kids, and it is affecting a nation. It's wrong. And so you need to be very, very invested in what your kids are learning.
We all want truth. The truth will set you free.